focus on. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Salim, for your evidence-based recommendations. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have luminary of discussants present here, and I'm also mindful of the unpleasant duty that Nisha has asked me to serve. It's timekeeping. So it's half an hour, and in half an hour we have to take comments from the floor, and we have to take comments from the discussants as well, which I know is almost impossible task. But what I can request perhaps from the discussants, if you add your value addition to the discussion, something which is not discussed, perhaps endorse or challenge it, I think that would be more thought provoking. On my list, the first is Dr. Manzoor Ahmed. Dr. Manzoor Ahmed has represented Pakistan as ambassador to WTO and ambassador to Geneva as well. Very seasoned diplomat and trade expert currently with the USAID project. So, Dr. Saab, your words of wisdom on this Pakistan-India trade and way forward, and then perhaps I can go to the next two discussants.
Thank you, Abid. Well, I think I have only about 5-7 minutes, so I
Perhaps
won't.
less than 5 seconds.
Less than that. Okay, so I just pick up 2 or 3 points, I mean. And first I pick up Dr. Tarab's point that where he showed that in 2003, both Pakistan's exports are a little bit picking up and India's, but by 2005, India took up in a big way and Pakistan just stagnated. You know, you gave certain hypotheses, but mine is slightly different. What happened in case of Pakistan? In 2002, we stopped the reform process completely. No tariff reform at all. And what we did was, in about 2007, we reversed many of those. We picked up first 80, then hundreds of products, all luxury products. We put some regulatory duties, so we closed ourselves in. India kept opening. I mean, 2002, their peak tariff was 30 hours or 25. They kept doing and reducing. And they're not only to Pakistan, exports everywhere increased. And that's my hypothesis, what happened. Okay, then yes, one other point I'd like to, you say that perhaps your best recommendation about agriculture having a new, I don't really understand. Maybe in NAFTA they had it in 95, there was no WTO, all that and those days. But now we have an agreement and there are sensitive products already identified by both sides. And otherwise agriculture, all trade is open. I mean, Pakistan's negative list is all those items are now negative list. India does not export any of those because it's normally edible oils, etc., palm oil, which Pakistan, India also imports, we also import. So we cannot go back in the past and try to have another agreement. And so that's my feel on this. My second point is Professor Rehans, and when we predict trade through RCAs and these model, GTAP model, etc., I'm basically not an economist myself, and I think in some special cases like India, Pakistan, we don't really get it right. You know, one of the things when in 2012 we're really pushing for this MFN and opening up everything, and when Mr. Zafar Mahmood was trying to push this through, and at the time, now it's agriculture and other lobbies, but at the time one of the ministries, strangely, the Ministry of Textiles, really put their foot down. No, our textile industry. And a year later, they're so happy. I mean, textile is the more forthcoming industry in Pakistan, really pushing for opening up. And there also Dr. Tarab did this analysis and saying that maybe some of these industries will be losers in Pakistan, like auto, you say. Had India done the same thing in 2002-03 when they were opening up their auto sector, they would have come to this conclusion that India will be a big loser because they were not at all competitive. They're not exporting, but they opened up, and look at how things have changed in 10 years. So, you know, when we do these modeling, sometimes we have to take this into account. And another point is about, I think they rightly emphasizes trade facilitation, that we are going to gain the trade is going to grow much. I think it says that otherwise it's 30%, and through trade it may be 200% for both sides. And trade facilitation does not just mean infrastructure. That might take some time. That means investment. You can easily do many of these software things. Instead of checking everything at Wagah, you can let a container go all the way from this side to Amritsar, and other side they have dry ports in Lahore. So there are container handling activity. And also you can open up a few more borders. So that is an important point. I think I stop here then. Okay, thank you.
Doctor, for your validation. Next discussant is Dr. Sanjeev Pohit, who is a Senior Principal Scientific and Senior Fellow at National Institute of Science, Technology and Development Studies. Ji, Dr. Pohit.
Yeah, hello. I will stick to my discussion on the paper by selling. It's an excellent paper. I think this kind of results, probably I think Salim is one of the people who is expert on GTAP. So as such, I can start the results and okay, it's been correctly done. So it's a standard model, so only 2-3 points we can ask. So that the structure is used for this very study is correct, or that the scenarios are relevant, and what you can say about the results. First of all, he has not emphasized, that, see, in a CG kind of model, we are trying to estimate the consumer surplus. And based on the whatever the kind of volume of trade going on. Since a part of the trade is informal kind of trade, which is not recorded in the GTAP database, so whatever estimates or gains he is showing, it is underestimation. Gains should be much larger, and I think he should emphasize that point. Secondly, he has only said about the oil fare. This oil fare can go over the accrues. There are factors of production in a GTAP model on the labor, skilled labor, unskilled labor, or the capital. Or one question, of course, there is a developing country like India and Pakistan, a lot of poor are there. Does the unskilled labor are gaining or losing? That is a point we need to identify. Secondly, he has also not said about, because in a kind of CG model, some sector will contract, some will expand. We don't know how much the sector effect on India and Pakistan on the output. Does any sector really loosen? Because then this kind of sector probably lobby will be there. They will try to negate. So this point may be emphasizing in the paper would be better, I think. Most important is now probably both the country, India and Pakistan, are too much in the regional regime. India has already signed 13 FTA, 10 are under negotiation. Pakistan has signed 6 FTA, 3 are under negotiation. So probably India, Pakistan, MFA states has underpin the domination of the regional regimes. So many FTAs, whether India, Pakistan gives a FMN status to India, we may not show any positive impact of it. That could be happen basically. And that is, you probably need to do a simulation which takes about this kind of regional effect and what is their impact on India-Pakistan relationships. Another thing, I think recently, GTAP has released, because we know time delay, cost trade effect, is kind of a barrier next. And recently, I think towards this October, GTAP has released detailed this kind of what is the tariff equivalent impact of this delay in time. And these things, instead of just advocating kind of trade preparation measures, fees dividend, maybe Salim can put this kind of barrier as a policy shock and run the model. Because then we can more accurate kind of trade preparation impact based on the studies which GTAP is releasing, which is probably more appropriate. Another thing probably though you have not mentioned, I assume that probably is using a kind of a perfect competition kind of structure in the GTAP model. Also there are cases where there is this kind of imperfect monopolistic competition kind of structure are there. You can also do it, because this is important, because as you know, in Pakistan there is kind of a special regulatory order, where a select few firms get benefit of the duty concession, not all firms get. And as a result, is kind of import licensing, and some of the firms are getting monopoly rents. And if it's a perfect company, this monopoly rent will disappear, and there may be more gain of it. So this kind of variation may be worthwhile to study. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pohat, for your valuable suggestions. And now Dr. Deb Kusum Das, who is Associate Professor at the Department of Economics, Ramjas College, University of Delhi.
I'll keep my comments brief because I don't want to stand in the way of Ishrat Hussain Saab's special lecture. Now, I have 2 or 3 points to mention here. One is that in a normalizing India-Pakistan trade kind of a research idea, you have to, MFN, sensitive list, I think we've dealt enough. We've seen what's the MFN, the research going on, there's empirical work and things like MFN sensitive. You also have to put it in a perspective. I mean, why is it important for India to trade with Pakistan? Or why is it important to, for Pakistan to trade with India? There's an economist background to it. It's trade and economic geography. If you go back to Krugman, it's important. It's not emotions that, you know, it's partition, borders, one relative lost there, here. It has a solid theoretical background, economic geography and trade, why it's important. The third thing is that how much can you enhance trade by talking in terms of automobile, agriculture, their challenges, their opportunities, unless you see your own industrial sector, unless you see your own industrial environment. How conducive is your industrial policy towards pushing 3 more auto component parts across the border? Or how is your industrial policy shaping up to produce, to send onions across the border to India? That's very important. I mean, trade works in conjunction with industrial policy. I mean, you cannot dismiss the industrial policies or industrial business environment in your own economies and keep talking about normalizing trade. And finally, on a sectoral perspective, I would really like to see some work on entertainment industry. I mean, that binds India and Pakistan together. I mean, I was in Lahore in the last week of December. I wanted to see Dhoom 3 in Lahore, but I was told by my hosts that there is no ticket available unless I go and see it at 11:30 or 12 at night. That's not important. Some of my colleagues on the Indian side found it very crazy that I should come to Pakistan and want to see a Dhoom which I can see anywhere in India. Now, the idea of not going to see a movie was that there is so much to be gained out of the entertainment industry. I mean, our movies are movies and televisions and live entertainment, music. I strolled across Lahore to just get an idea of 2 things that Turab and Salim have mentioned. One is, how is your product faring globally? And through those competitive charts. And Salim mentioned about informal trade. Now, you can get a latest Indian DVD in Lahore, in DHA, in many shops. Either it's manufactured DHA Lahore or it's manufactured in UAE. That's an important concern. Why should there be these kind of piracy and stuff like that? For there is a huge demand for these products. Similarly, on the Indian side, of course, I know that goes beyond economics and it's a political domain. Why should Indian music composers be hiring studios in Dubai and London to get Bollywood singers for our movies here? I mean, not many here know that there's an enormous cost on the Hindi film industries when they have to record one song in London or in Dubai by Atif Islam or somebody. Because if you scan music records in India, you will see that all the lead male singers today are from Pakistan. So this is one sector we must work towards to see the entertainment industry. How is it progress? And I'm sure there's a win-win on both sides on the entertainment sector. It's time economists shed their mindset of being excessively bothered about manufacturing sector, trade in goods, and move beyond services, that to beyond health and education, financial services, to look up something where we can really have a win situation on both sides. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Das. I have 10 more minutes on my credit, and what I propose that we take comments from the floor and we don't take any responses from the panels, so that we can hear from the floor. So about 3-4 interventions from the floor. I can see number 1, number 2, number 3. If you can also introduce yourself. Yes, sir.
I'm Sri Prakash. I'm professor at the Academy of International Studies in Jamia Millia Islamia. I'm Sri Prakash, professor at the Academy of International Studies, Jamia Millia Islamia University. And I would like to draw the attention of the panel to the very substantial depreciation of the Indian rupee, which has taken place in the last 2 years or so. And one would like to know whether how it has changed the equation between the two currencies and whether it has had any impact at all on the trends in India-Pakistan trade. Thank you.
I'm Pradeep Sehgal, and my company trades with Pakistan. I just want to highlight two things which I've noticed. As far as, because this panel is about, this session is for enhancing trade in goods. India and Pakistan are trading, if I want to categorize, one is manufactured goods, and the second is agro produce, and the third is, I would say, non-manufactured goods like minerals and other things. After 2012, when Pakistan moved towards a regime of replacing the positive list with negative list, I think it's a very curious case of study. Indian exports to Pakistan were supposed to be multiplied after that. I think we don't see that effect happening. So there's a lesson to be learned here. And I agree with Dr. Purohit that if we don't look deeper into it, I think we'll keep on signing agreements, but there will be nothing on the ground to be gained. And secondly, since India and Pakistan are trading, manufactured goods are a smaller part of the whole basket. We are doing a lot of trade in agro produce, like Indian exports to Pakistan of DOC, de-oiled cake, and cotton. And Pakistan export of dry dates to India, they constitute a huge volume and huge amount as far as the trade from the land route is concerned. One major point to be noticed here is that we have failed to create interdependency. We have a tendency of exporting either which is surplus or importing which is in shortage. We are not moving towards a regime of creating a dependency. For example, I would say that Indian policies towards export of cotton and the policy of both the countries of treating the import and export of vegetables and other products. The one time you find out there is a duty, second day there is not a duty. So it's a very erratic kind of approach we have today. And if we have to achieve that enhancement in trade, I think we need a little deeper study here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. My name is Yawar Ali, and I'm the co-chair of the Pakistan-India Joint Business Forum. I have 2-3 comments. One is, I think we're forgetting